Welcome to the latest episode of Learning with Success, the show for parents of school-aged children, sponsored by Success Tutoring Online, helping students with academic advancement for over 20 years. And I'm your host, Armando Salcido. Today, we have a local Burbank teacher with years of experience in a variety of grades and settings, Kathy Wills-Sarna. Welcome, Kathy. How are you doing?
I am great. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk about what I love the most.
All right, very good. So I'm looking over your bio and I see that you've done a lot of things. You began your teaching career by teaching English in Japan, and then you moved from your home country of Canada to the United States to teach middle school and high school special education in South Pasadena. And while you were doing that, you were also working with kids in Juvenile Hall. So let me ask you this. What was it like teaching kids in the middle school and middle school and high school special education, and also teaching kids in Juvenile Hall?
Well, it was quite a change from coming from overseas. So I came to the United States, actually from Canada, and I taught in Japan. So I taught mostly adults first. That was my first, which was great because they were older than me and very respectful. And when I went to the elementary schools, they bowed at you and they cleaned the schools. And then I came to Los Angeles. Well, that was a whole lot different. So when I went in to my special education school, these were kids in South Pasadena, which is a lovely part of Los Angeles. However, the kids were all bussed in. So these were the kids that were not successful in their regular public schools. They'd gone through all the different placements available, and this was now their least restrictive environment, which was a non-public school. So a lot of them had learning difficulties. They had emotional issues, behavioral issues. They were the ones that were not successful. So that was quite a jump from adults and kids in a different country. We had a second language. And then here I was in Los Angeles teaching kids that were really struggling in school.
Yeah.
So it was eye-opening. And also because I didn't know the city very well and I didn't know the educational system. It wasn't the country I grew up in. So there was a big learning curve for me.
Wow. I'm sure that was challenging. So
yeah, it was challenging. And the juvenile justice kids, that was more of a contract. Like I would go, it wasn't a full-time teaching position in their schools because the kids who are all in the juvenile facilities, they do get education, but this was more of a program of trying to help them discover what kind of learning style they had or strategies they could have when they did get released, and just learning about how they learn and trying to help them. I also assessed them, which was fascinating to find out. I guess it would be no surprise to most of us that they were more than 2 to 5, grade levels behind in school. A lot of them were struggling with just basic reading, and they were in middle school. So that was something that needs to get addressed. I think we're looking at the juvenile justice system and trying to figure out how we can get these kids back on track. But it's 2 to 3 grade levels is a long way to go.
It is. That's a lot. Okay, so now let me ask you this here. When you were working with those kids there in Juvenile Hall, what were your biggest observations that related to education and the academic skills of the youth that you visited there?
Well, the first thing we did was assess them. So they were in a facility. They were, some of them were angry, some of them were discouraged, some of them were depressed. They were all behind grade level in terms of their achievement. And, my goal was to try and give them some strategies. But what I ultimately learned is they're all going back to the same home situation. So we have a lot of thinking to do in terms of how we can help them adjust when they get out. It's not just school issues, it's also their entire environment. So it was hard. It hurt my heart. It hurt my heart to see these kids who really want to do better. And it's like school is just a small part of their day. Yeah.
And it is interesting when you if you're not around kids like that, you can get the idea that they're all, like hardened criminals or whatever, but you talk to them, they're kids, they're regular kids,
Mhm.
So, wow.
They
So
love
now,
one-on-one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They love the one-on-one. I mean, somebody coming and talking to them and just showing an interest and caring. I mean, that's what all kids want. It's just that somebody to wanna listen to them.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm,
We find also. Now,
mhm,
so while you were doing that, that's what this is what I find amazing. So while you were actually teaching middle school and high school special education kids, and also working with kids at the juvenile hall, you actually got your master's degree in special education. Let's see here, and that was at Cal State LA, and
mhm.
so you were a very busy lady at that time.
Yeah. Well, Cal State LA has a great program, and it was, down the street. So what I loved doing, I had a minor in learning disabilities, so I already kind of knew about kids who struggled with learning and all the different kinds of things that they struggled with. But it was great. It's always great to go to school when your feet are in the water of what you're doing and studying. So that I really enjoyed that because whatever I learned, I would come back and kind of check it out and try. I had the whole perspective of being a student and also trying out the things that I was learning. So it's a
Wow.
good program.
Good. So now, so after you got your degree, then you transferred to public school in Burbank in 1995, and apparently there you taught 3.5 years at John Muir Middle School before changing over to teaching kindergarten, and
Mhm,
now you are in your 24th year of teaching kindergarten in Burbank.
mhm. Yeah, and that's my favorite grade. I mean, people have said, "Do you want to move up with my kids?" I'm like, "Nope, I want to stay right here in kindergarten." I love it.
So now, so why did you go from teaching middle school and high school kids, even though yeah they were special education? Why did you go from there to then switch over to teach kindergarten classes?
So what I found when I was at the middle school, I taught they had a different kind of setup. They had kids in a self-contained classroom with different levels of needs, and so I had the self-contained classroom for 2 years, and they were all struggling with learning. They had some behavioral issues, um, and then I went to what's called resource, which is I would push in and go help them in a regular ed class. And basically, what I found out is that so many of the kids were struggling with their basic fundamental reading skills. And I thought I wanted to be where it started. These
Mm,
kids, even the ones at my special ed school to start with, and my special ed at Muir, these students were under when they were learning to read. There was it was more whole language, which wasn't phonics based. So the
mhm.
idea of whole language was the premise of that you would learn to read just like we learn to speak by like reading lots of books and you would learn to the words because you learn the context as opposed to taking words and breaking them into pieces and phonetics and learning rules. Um, and it's not as successful. I mean, that's been proven. And so all these kids were so far behind in their reading. I was like blown away. It's like how and then on top of it, I had the special ed kids, so I remember asking one student, like, "How come how come we're reading where we're reading?" And he's like, "Well, you have to be in class, Ms. Lowe, you have to be in class to know how to learn to read." And he was getting kicked out a lot because that was another thing that was happening is there was a lot more kicking the kids out, putting them in the hallway and suspending them because of their behaviors. So,
Mm,
it
wow.
was a combination of the way the special ed kids were set up and
Yeah.
also the reading program that they started with that just made their reading skills and their fundamentals, and I was like, "No, I'm going to where you learn to read," which is kinder and first.
Very
So,
good.
yeah.
Very good. I agree. I mean, learning to read and knowing how to read is just one of those fundamentals that really are just needed. They're so basic, you know.
Mhm.
So now, so on top of teaching kindergarten, apparently you also work with parents to help them to prepare their little ones for success in kindergarten. Now, explain that. Tell me about that.
Well, it's more of a recent thing. I mean, the one thing I do love about kindergarten is that I have so much more access to parents at drop-offs and pickups. They tend to be at the same location and that gives me lots of opportunity to like do little mini conferences. When I do my back to school night, sometimes I have a report card night just specifically in addition to the school required one, just to teach parents how school works and how report cards work and how, because this is their first time at the school. And if they can understand it in the beginning, then it kind of repeats in the other grades. But I want them to know how important it is to stay involved. And then I just finished a Mondays in March parenting class where I broke it down into different topics, like what are some academic things you can work on to get your child ready? What are some social skills you can get to do? Where are we with technology? How does it work? Because I think parents, everybody wants their child to have an amazing first start.
Hmm.
And there's just not enough time sometimes to ask questions. We did have, I think all districts have like a kindergarten like preparation, and they go on. I mean, we had a Zoom one, come and find out what do you need, what shots do you need? More of the technical thing, what shots, can they come, what's the birth dates, what paperwork is needed, how to do it. But in terms of like how to help your child in the next 6 to 8 months before school starts, what could I be doing to make sure my kid is ready? So I think that's helpful, because maybe I think the preschools are pretty on top of things in terms of what to teach, but I just think it's nice to hear from somebody who's on the front line.
Very good. Now, one time when we spoke, you said that success as a student in kindergarten sets up a child to succeed as a student from that point forward. So now, why are the skills that children learn or acquire in pre-K and kindergarten so important for their continued success as students?
If you think about most things that we want to try that we've never tried before, if you have a negative first experience, you're probably not a little hesitant to do it again. So the idea is to have a great first experience so you love doing it. And when you love doing things that you feel successful at. And so it's kind of like a wheel. If you do something and you're good at it, you want to do it more. If you do it more, you get better at it. So it would work in the negative too. If you do something and you're not good at it, you're not going to want to do it again, and you're not going to get good at it. And so it will just continue to be something that, whether it's reading or anything. So first start is so important to the momentum of loving what you're doing.
Very good. Very good. I agree completely. Now, you also mentioned that you have students that come in at all different levels of preparation and readiness to learn. Some very, very prepared, very ready, and others that are not. Now, let's take a look at this. If you had, let's say, an ideal classroom in which all of your students were well prepared, they were all at comparable levels of readiness to learn, and you didn't have to spend time teaching things that they should have actually really learned at home or learned by now already. Um, what would you ideally, this ideal class, what would you actually be teaching these students?
Well, I think I'm required to teach, you whenever you pick a grade level, you're required to teach the standards within the grade level.
Hmm.
And like you said, the problem is that the kids come in, some kids are ready to start at the beginning, some kids are already met half of them, and some kids have in kindergarten have already met a lot of them. So I'm not I would love to say, well, if I had that ideal thing, then we could take all everything and do much more activities, much more enrichment things with the curriculum. We could take the alphabet, we could do much more art because they already know the alphabet. That's great. Let's do some other thinking about ways we could, take it deeper. It's kind of like they've got the skills across. Now let's take it and increase the meaning. But ultimately, and I am so fired up about this, TK came in and just turned, flipped it upside down, because certain kids got school free, paid for, based only on their birthday. And the kids that got it were also the older ones.
Hmm.
So the ones with the more developed, who'd been on the planet longer, who'd, 9 months older, got free school, which left the youngest kids starting school, which, I call them like the babies, but they're not babies, but they're the youngest, and they didn't get any school. Now they could have gone to school if their parents, a lot of them do, because if they can afford to go to preschool, but they had to pay for it. So It would be like saying to you, I'm going to give you a year of soccer practice, and I'm going to teach you all the skills, and I'm going to, I'm going to teach you like ball skills and whatever. And then I'm going to ask your brother to come, and I'm not going to, he's going to be 10 months younger than you, with didn't get any practice for 180 days. And then who's going to be better?
Right. Right.
Who's going to be
Obviously.
better?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
So, well, let me ask you this: how does that get evened out then, or does that get evened out?
Well, it will get even out in the long run. I think right now we're moving it. First, it was like 3 months. 3 months got preschool, and now we've extended the date. And the idea is to get universal preschool, which means any child who will start kindergarten the next year will get access to a free year of TK, which is a curriculum which introduces a lot of the things that we're going to do. It gives them practice with all the skills, socializing, story time, following directions, singing. I mean, everything. Being on a campus, learning how to use a school bathroom. I mean, you think that's a given? I mean, our toilets aren't like your toilets at home. Kids have to figure out. My funny story is like you go into a bathroom with a child who's like 4 years old. The first thing you say to them is, "Put your hands up and don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. It's so dirty in here." Ugh. And then you expect them to go to the bathroom and latch doors and find the toilet paper and figure out if it's a push sink or a push paper towel or what is that. That is just like a daily thing that you think, well, they got that covered, but it's like that's not necessarily so. But we are trying to get the universal preschool. But bottom line is, Armando, there's always going to be the young kid versus the kid who's older.
Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
least everybody got the same chance. It was equitable.
Yeah.
You got the chance. And then it's got to be equitable.
Yeah. Exactly. So, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So, obviously, you don't have that ideal kindergarten that we described, and everybody coming in at the same level and all that. So,
Mhm.
as that is the case where you do not have that, you have your actual regular class right now, and everybody comes in at all different levels of preparation. So what is a typical day for you as a school teacher, and what do you end up teaching then if it's not the ideal that you would like to teach?
So at our school, and I think most of our schools in the Burbank school district have the option at kindergarten to have what's called a divided opening. So when we get a whole class we have 24 kids, typically that's what we have. And then we are allowed to put them into two different academic groupings. One group comes for an hour by themselves in the morning, and one comes for an hour at the end of the day. So it's like a divided dismissal. And during that time, which is amazing, we get time with a certain group of kids. So say it's my struggling kids, or my kids are just, don't have the stamina to get through till 1 o'clock to do their academics later in the day. And I need to catch them fresh. So I have like 12 kids. Actually, I have 13 kids come in the morning, and I run like, a reading boot camp or a math boot camp. Because typically if they're a little behind in reading, they're probably a little behind in math. Not always. Some kids are really, they're good with numbers. So it gives me that hour. And sometimes that's the time I'll pull in a parent volunteer to say, hey, can you read one-on-one with this? And he needs to practice. And you go to the board and call them up. So I got a whole center thing going. And then all of them will come together. And that's when I could do like the social studies and the science and the thing that's whole group. But the learning to read is super important. And then the later kids might already know how to read and sound out things. So they're at a different place. So I can do a completely different curriculum with them so that they're not bored, and these kids are clued out and don't know what is going on. So that I could not teach kindergarten without this divided group, because of the diversity of skills that are coming in my door and experiences.
So you at least are able to do at two different levels then, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, okay, let me ask you this here then. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you or any other kindergarten teacher would have in trying to get students through the expected requirements for for kindergarten and ready to enter the first grade?
I think the biggest challenge is just, I mean, coming out of like a year where the kids were at home. I mean, the kids that I have this year, they were in like masks from maybe like what 2 to 4. They're missing a couple of key. They're missing some of the practice. I mean, I always say to my kids, they can finish the sentence if I say practice makes, and they'll all say improvement. I'm not looking for perfect, but you will always get better if you practice. And so these kids are just missing some of the practice that other kids had. A lot of kids didn't get to go to a program. So they didn't get to practice all the sharing and the social skills and the manners and the asking questions, answering questions. Last year I had to like email some families like, do you call your child something different at home? Because they are not responding to their name. They're like, no. And I was like, because these kids have been at home. I mean, you think that's funny, but I was like, your name is Luna, right? I'm just like, yeah. I was like, but you're not answering. I've been calling your name. I'm tapping your, and it's like, you think about it and it makes sense. If the child has been at home and not in where do you hear your name? You hear your name at school.
Yeah, it's true.
So-and-so, Bob, put your paper in. Andy, you're next. Cooper, you're next. Bob, you're next. You hear your name at school. And if they were at home, I mean, no parents walk around saying their kid's name like, Amy, what do you want for dinner? Amy, put your shoes on. Amy, nobody does that. They just say, you ready? Let's go. Time for dinner. What do you want? And so they're not tuned to their name. So that's it. I'm finding that that's one of the things they're missing some of those social skills in the practice. So
That's interesting because I think that would actually probably be more the case if you have a a single child in the home. Most probably
Mhm.
more the case because I grew up and I had
Mhm.
there were four of us, and so yes,
Mhm.
my mom definitely would call us by name, and of course sometimes she would actually run through every single one of the names until she got the right one. you
Yeah.
know,
They just call it same name. It's like whoever, whatever.
you know
Yeah. I had all D's.
exactly.
I had all D's. We were Dave, Doug, and Don. So my mom's like, yeah, D, whatever. Whatever. So
So
yeah,
yeah,
but you're right. But I have a friend across the street and there's 2 kids, but she calls it's like, oh, give brother the toy, or all right, it's sister's turn.
that's
So,
true. Yeah, that's
you
true.
know,
That's true. Yeah.
not her names.
Now, one time, as we spoke, you also mentioned that prior to the COVID shutdowns, that you used to get quite a few parent volunteers to come in to help out in the classroom,
Mhm.
but that's not the case right now. So, why is that?
I think there's a lot of things. I think, we never know who we're getting. Like there's a lot of 2 families working. So I have 2, parent different all sorts of different family setups, but everybody's working. And I think people were exhausted after everything. It's like get your kids back to school and let's get our life back on track. Um, I think just an exhaustion. And there's more paperwork, or it feels like there's more paperwork to do. I think somebody would argue it's always been the same paperwork, but you got to do. I remember my mom would come and she would do one TB test. It would last for 4 years. She'd do her volunteer paperwork, and it would just kind of, you'd get all your references and your referral letters and everything, and you'd be good for 4 years. And now it seems it's like, I got to do it again. And then I got to get it approved and I got to remember to do it. And so because it's a yearly thing, I think maybe less people are doing it.
Mm.
Um, and then, honestly, some teachers, like I love the help in the room, but as you get up into the upper grades, it takes a very special parent to go in and volunteer with a teacher, because you're letting a parent see like a snippet of a day. And say you were like watching movie, then the parent might go home and you don't want them going saying, oh, well, all she does is read a book. How hard is that? You know? So you're letting people see a little bit. And then if it's horrible and some, kid is misbehaving, you don't want that parent going, oh my God, there's a nightmare kid in that class. You're letting people have a glimpse of a little small period of your time. And it has to be someone who's going to be non-judgmental, not go and stir the pot, not go and tell anybody else. I mean, we all talk to our friends about, what's going on. We all see, if we go to a park, we're like, oh, 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 we're watching kids. And I don't like to have parents. I mean, I don't think a parent wants to come in and volunteer and and stand at the photocopier. I think they want to see, I like them to see what it's like, because I like them to see their child in relation to 23 other children. Because sometimes parents go, oh, my kid knows everything. Oh, my kids, it's like, it's good for you to come in and see that there's other kids who know that. Don't worry, your child's not going to be bored. They're not the only ones that know this. Or, but then I have had parents who love to go to the photocopier. It's like mindless. They're like, give me something mindless. I'm good. I'll just press the button. That helps you. So it's like, it's hit and miss, you know? I'm always surprised. It's like, you want to stand at the copy machine? Why? But
I would think that that it would actually be good for parents to get a reality of what it's like to be in the classroom, to see, the kids. Now,
Mhm.
yes, some people are more kid oriented, and they have a high tolerance for lots of noise and jumping and running and screaming
Mhm.
and this and that, and others do not. But I think it would actually be, I mean, just my opinion is that I think it would actually be good for more parents to see what it's like in the actual classroom.
Yeah. I think with kindergarten, look, my husband's a retired middle school teacher, and they come in and there's like sit generally. I mean, there's lots of behavior, but in terms of a 50-minute period, like they do one lesson in like a 50-minute class kind of thing. I mean, I do like 4 lessons in 50 minutes. There's nobody sitting still for like longer than 10 to 15 minutes before they're jumping to something else. The transitions, it's it's like organized chaos with kinder, because they don't have that long an attention span. They can't sit for that much longer.
Right.
I think parents go, I'm like, oh my God, how do you get through? Oh my gosh, what time do you start? You know, can I bring you a coffee? I can't bring you a drink, but oh my gosh, like how do you get through a day? And I'm just like, you just, it's my it's my jam. If I love that it changes,
Yes.
every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can make the best laid lesson plans, and it's like my mom calls it like an emergency room. It's like just when you think, you never know what's coming in your door, you never know what's going to happen. It's but that's what kind of makes it fun and never boring.
Oh, definitely not boring. Definitely not
Mhm,
boring. So,
mhm.
well, okay. So, if a parent did have a couple of hours per week, let's say, to be able to come in to help, what would they do? What would they do in the classroom? And also, and what actually are the qualifications?
Um, there's a form online. They just need to have, they need to show. I'm not sure where we're at with vaccinations at this point, but they need to have all their paperwork filled out with important information. They have to have references from 2 people, and I think they used to run their fingerprints through. I'm not exactly sure, so I don't want to give wrong information. But and then once they get cleared, they get cleared. They go through the office and they'll get cleared. Their name will go, I think, I don't know if they vote at the board meeting, but they get cleared to be on campus. Same with anybody, anybody who's doing presentations, everybody has to be cleared to be on campus so that we know that people that are coming on have been vetted and checked out. And so that makes us safe. And that's always been something that I think we do well. And then a parent could come in. Like I said, there's teachers need copying. We've got math, books that need pages torn out. They might get getting die cuts, bulletin board stuff. They might have you help. Like I like to have parents in when I have a project to do, because if I'm painting or making something where I need different stations and there's just organizational stuff. That's great to have an extra set of eyes and hands. Any of those outside activities, scavenger hunts or runs or things like that. It's just it's nice to have an extra set of eyes, ears, and hands, especially with the little ones.
And but if you don't have that, I just realized what you were saying here, that so you have 24 kids.
Mhm.
So it's you, just
Mhm.
you by yourself, not
Mhm.
other people coming in, other teachers, assistants, or anything. Just it's you with 24
Mhm.
kids.
Mhm. 23 and me, or I always say like 23 and me. That's my 23 and me. Not a genetic test. It's me and chaos. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Now let me ask you this here. If looking at all of the students that come in into your classroom at, like I said, all different levels of preparation and readiness, what would you recommend parents do for their little ones, toddlers, going up to preschool? What should they do to help prepare their kids to be successful in kindergarten?
Ooh, all right. Do you want my list? Here it is. Here it is. I
Sure.
got a list. All right. Well, the number one thing that is proven to help kids be better readers is to read to your children. So I know that, there are these things, everybody, called books. And most of us at school have books. I don't have iPads in my room. I don't have my phone to give them. So they have to read a book. So books are great. And I mean, I say that sarcastically, but it's true. If you go out anywhere, you see kids on phones and you see kids on screens and books. And, books are less common than they were before the invention of those screens. So in all our books, we have, paper. Sometimes it's kind of cheap paper. So if you are reading books with your kids, have your kids practice turning the page. I mean, you laugh and you think that's hysterical, but if I have 23 kids and I need them all on the same page, when a kid struggles to turn a page because he can't figure out the paper and their motor skills are not as fine-tuned because they haven't been working with crayons as much as they used to when we had placemats and crayons at restaurants and things, they just might need to practice turning the pages. So that would
Wow.
be great. That sounds really bizarre, but they've been swiping, but not grabbing with their two pincher fingers a piece of paper. And then they'll get too many pages and then they're on the wrong page. And then I got to go run around because some turned too many and some didn't turn one and some can't. So just getting to the lesson can take me 5 minutes with page turning. So just try it with your kids. Just make sure they can turn the page. Reading to your children, just variety of books, informational text, fiction, have some fun with stories. I mean, we all grew up with amazing stories. Take the stuff that you love reading and share your personal favorites with your kids to connect them. That's a great connecting time. Make sure your kids are talking in full sentences and try not to get them out of the lazy answers of, yeah, do you want dinner? Yeah, yes, please. No, thank you. Some manners, some full sentences. I know we all know what they mean, but we're going to start reading sentences. So the more you say the word sentence, the easier it'll be for them to understand when the teacher says, read this sentence or put your finger on the first word of the sentence. Just little vocabulary things that you could just introduce your kids to at home and say, so they learn these words like sentence and patience. Hey, because we're going to say that you need to have patience. It's like not patience like at the hospital, but patience like waiting. Introduce lots of vocabulary to your kids. Make sure they give you eye contact. I know we scurry around and we talk to our kids and we don't make them look at us, but just if they're having conversations with people, just remind them to look at eye contact. We missed those 2 years of masking and being able to read situations based on a person's face, listening to their voice, watching their body language, because we weren't out and about practicing that thing. It's like, look at that lady there. She looks pretty mad. Whoa, why do you say that? Well, I don't know. What do you think? She's got her hands on her hips, or she's, her face is all scrunched. Starting to
It's
help
also
kids
developing
read.
it's developing their actual observational skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's the other thing is like self-help skills. I love my California kids when it gets cold because watch them put on their own jacket. It's like, can you help me? I don't know. They pulled it off, the sleeves inside out, make sure your kids know how to do things. I know we're always in a hurry and it's faster for us to do it. But if we keep doing it, they don't learn how to do it. So then they get to school and I got 5 kids who don't know how to put a jacket on. I'm like, come on. Zippers, jackets, making sure, they can unsnap and snap. Don't put them in pants they can't get out of when they need to go to the bathroom. Because in the old days, a kid would say, can you help me snap my pants closed? Well, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to grab a kid's waistband and snap their buttons. That's, you gotta do those. Make sure your kids can do all those things. Containers at lunch. Kids will say, I didn't eat anything. It's like, why not? I couldn't open anything. Moms are like putting it on so tight because they don't want it to leak. But at the same time, their little kids are down by themselves at the lunch table. They can't open anything. So just
Wow.
little things that, all those little tiny things that you just don't think about. Those are the
Yeah.
things I love to to tell parents. It's like, think about being at a lunch table with 104 classes of kindergarten, or that's 100 kids, 3 yard duties. And is your kid actually going to raise their hand and ask for help, or they're just going to sit there and they can't open something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Wow. I hadn't even
Great.
thought about that.
Mhm.
So now we always at Success Tutoring, we work with students of all ages, and we always and a lot of times we have kids that have younger brothers and sisters, and sometimes the parents will ask us about things. We always really encourage reading to the kids. And one of the things that I see is that it's not only just, it is true, you develop a vocabulary, you start to learn, sentence structure, you start to learn all these things. I hadn't even thought about, the actual mechanics of turning the page, but it's also just a bonding time. It's a time when kids just like sitting on mom's or dad's lap and spending time with them, and whether they even understand what is being said or read or anything, they just, it's me time for them to be with mom or to be with dad and enjoy just being with them.
So I love that idea of parents always, I mean, you think that's an assumption, but sometimes we need to tell parents as educators that your kids are working hard at school, but I only have them a limited time. You still have them more. So when we send work home, instead of looking through it just yourself, like pick something or one or two things, so look through what we're learning. So maybe you can just have like a 2 sentence discussion about something, and that will trigger your child to tell you things, or show them their work and say, hey, you did really good on this. What was this about? Wow, what are you learning? And make that connection. We send things home to you, not so you can put them in your recycle bin, but so that you can stay connected with what we're learning, and maybe do, like if we're on subtraction, which I'm on right now, it's like as you set the dinner table or whatever, say, oh, well, if I had 4 and I need to take away, make a little mental math question and stay connected to sort of what we're learning. So yeah, that would be very helpful for us. The review, you're just reinforcing what we're doing at school and reviewing a little bit, because we don't have the time to review as much as we probably need to for mastery for some kids.
Yeah. I think if parents did do that, and I think you're correct in that parents do, they're working all day and they want to actually just rest and relax at the end of the day, but you want to also be engaged with your kids. So if you see what they're actually learning, it's an opportunity to talk to them and find out what they learned and how did they like this. And I think it's good. So I think it's really good that you send things home to the parents.
Well, I think there isn't a teacher who isn't sending home a plethora of information. The problem is, a lot of information now in terms of school things is going online. We're trying to go paperless. We're trying to, reduce the amount of paper we use, which is great, but it again, it's inequitable for some of the parents. The ones who might need to hear some of the information the most are the ones that might not have the technology or the skills to get on and get the information. So it's kind of we put things online for them to do and they don't do them, and then we're mad at them, but they might not have the means, the knowledge to do those kinds of things with the technology.
That's true. That's true. So, all right. Is there anything else that you think parents of toddlers, pre-K, and kindergarten students need to know, or that would help their kids be successful as students in your class or any other kindergarten class?
I think I would like to emphasize with people that there's so much that you have that's you don't even like you don't really consider as academics and preschool kinds of things. Like in the old days, I think everybody had a calendar on their fridge. I still have a calendar on my fridge because I'm old school. I love paper. I love paper pencil things. I want a piece of paper to read, to hold. I still like books. Um, I'm not a huge, not that I can't use technology. I just would rather, I have a hard time reading on a screen. Is use the things that we used to do. They're super important and they're gone. Calendar, teach your kids, that's numbers 0 to 31. Let them see what's coming up with events. Let them look at the numbers. Let them count columns for a week at a time. Let them put their events on there. That is hugely academic, and you can do it at home, and that will be brilliant for math skills. Let them. I mean, nobody has a face clock hardly anymore, so that's kind of gone for counting by fives and that kind of thing. But money, I mean, we don't even have coins. We used to have coins in the kindergarten curriculum. I mean, kids, there was a letter Q on a rug, a brand new rug in one of the rooms. And I said to the kids is like, we walk through it on the way out the door. And it's like, what is that with the Q? And they're like, oh no, it was a quarter. They don't know, because how does your mom pay with her phone? I don't know, Apple Pay. They don't know coins.
Yeah.
We used to count coins. I mean, how coins in 25 to 50. I mean, we knew how to count by 25s because we knew our money.
Yeah.
Things that are, you have so much fun stuff in your house that you can turn into like a calendar, a clock, just number recognition. I don't care if it's a digital clock. For little kids, it's 2:43, a 2, 4, and a 3. That's number recognition. Get letters for your bathtub. There's nothing better than a trapped kid in a tub who's having a great time playing with letters. I mean, that's a half hour of school. They love it in the tub. Don't waste that just sitting on your laptop on a stool against the wall. That's school time. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Colors.
Yeah.
I mean, don't miss those cool opportunities to get that little bump of like extra get ready skills, right and left, all the things that,
Yeah. Very good. Well, I'll tell you, we at Success Tutoring Online, our tutoring is done online, but it's either a very specific small amount of time, half an hour for young kids, 45 minutes, or they're a little bit older, up to an hour, and it can be once a week or twice a week. But we encourage, in addition to that, that they go outside, that they experience the environment, that they run and jump and climb, and that they build things, that they really work on things. Even though we do our actual educational advancement online, it's for a short period, but we really encourage parents to spend a lot of time with their kids outside, doing things, being active, and we are fans of actual books, and like you said, writing notes. Oh, I'm writing all the time. I'm writing when I'm talking to somebody. I'm writing, and if I'm studying something, I'm writing notes all the time. And it's something that kids don't learn. We see kids in high school that don't know how to read an analog clock. They don't know how to like you said, money, coins. They don't know their the currency, the different coins and the value of them. They don't know. There's so many different things that because I'm like from way old school, that we just took for granted. We just learned, and kids don't have. People say, oh, well, they're not learning these things. Well, yeah, but they also don't even have them available to learn.
Right. Well, they're not. I mean, if they're in the curriculum, great. But you know what? We can't. There's so many things that we just knew how to do, like map skills. Like I knew what a block looked like. I knew how to get from A to B. I knew how to right turn, left turn. I knew landmarks. I knew what a landmark was. Kids don't know what a landmark is. Nobody needs a landmark. Just plug it in your phone and Siri will tell you how to get there. But it's true. Map skills. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we had to do them. Like we looked out windows. We knew what building we were past and how far we were from home. There's just not that awareness because kids are, into different things that we didn't have any of that technology to even have an option of checking into anything different. So
right. Exactly. So, wow. Well, I'll tell you, I think this has been very, very educational, very informative. And I want to thank you for the time that you've taken today to come in and tell us about kindergarten, readiness for kindergarten. And before we end off, let me ask you this. Is there anything else that you would like to add that you think parents should know, or that you would like to communicate to parents either going that have kids going into kindergarten or that will be soon going into kindergarten?
Well, first of all, I mean, thank you for letting me share. I love I love talking about education. I love talking about the early child, the little ones coming in. Um, I just encourage parents. I am a parent. I know how hard parenting is. I only I have one, and it's a hard job. There's no manual, there's no, you you got to talk to people, and you won't want to compare your kid to somebody. You want to compare yourself. You're so hard on yourself, the job you're doing. When I get the kids, the parents are the experts. Look, they've been with them for 4 years. They know their kid inside out. They know, and I'm hoping that they'll share things they love, things they don't. I really believe in a connection like with parents and teachers. I'm I know my wheelhouse of how to teach them how to read. I know what to do, but if there's something that you share that works, I mean, I think we need to be good resources for each other as teacher. Like, I will teach you what I know, but you can teach me what you know. Um, I love my parents to share things. If you found out something great, let me know and I'll put it out to all the parents. It's it's a team. We need to be a team because ultimately, once you're in a class, we're going to be together raising these kids with for the next 13 years through school. And you will rely on building some parent friendships as you go through. And you will learn a ton from other parents, not just the teachers. I'm hoping you will learn from us about what we're doing, but also from each other. So I really encourage you to get connected, get involved in the school, find one thing that you love to do. There's a million things for parents to get involved in schools, whether it's and you don't always have to have all your, I don't know if you have to have all your volunteer, but there's fun runs. There's things you can do at home to be helpful. If you don't want to come to school, teachers will have you cutting out things at home or putting things together at home. Get involved, because then you'll be part of this incredible community, and we're all in this educating our next future generation together. So thank you for letting me come and give my little 2 cents and my advice and my humor. I hope some of it was kind of entertaining.
It was. I think it was.
But I appreciate any opportunity to get some information out to people.
Very good. Very good. And
again, I love my job. And
very good. Well, again, thank you very much. Thank you for coming on as a guest. And I want to thank all of our listeners and all of those watching on YouTube for joining us today. I hope that you have found the information helpful and informative. And please subscribe so you won't actually miss some of the upcoming additional interviews that we have coming up. Thank you very much. And we will see you all next week. Thank you very much, Kathy.
All right. Bye. Take care.
Bye. As mentioned at the beginning of the show, Learning with Success is sponsored by Success Tutoring Online. Our administrative offices are located in Burbank, California, but we provide tutoring or academic advancement to students throughout the United States.